In today's video, I'm going to take a look at 8 weird, disturbing and secret facts from the Second World War. It was actually a really fun video to research, with many of these coming as a surprise to me, as I never really realised the depth and then some of the disturbing facts that were connected to this war. Starting out with one that is probably the most shocking on this list, is Unit 731 and the Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night. Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night was a 1945 plan developed by Shiro Aishi to wage biological warfare upon civilian population centres in Southern California in the United States during the final months of the Second World War. This was going to be approached using pathogens created by members of Aishi's Unit 731. That research program was one of the great secrets of Japan during and after World War II. It was a vast project to develop weapons of biological warfare, including the plague, anthrax, cholera, and a dozen other pathogens. Unit 731 of the Japanese Imperial Army conducted research by experimenting on humans and by field testing plague bombs by dropping them on Chinese cities to see whether they could start plague outbreaks. They could. The plan was scheduled to begin on September 22nd, 1945, but was not realised because of the surrender of Japan on August 15th, 1945. This diverted the potential for large-scale biological warfare, with thousands and thousands of people being wiped out by these diseases. Some of the stories linking into this can't really be repeated in this video because they are so horrific, but I suggest taking a look at Operation Cherry Blossoms at Night and Unit 731 and some of the testing methods that they undertook. It was absolutely horrific. Next up, we're looking at more of a mystery with the ghost plane of Pearl Harbor. It has been called the Phantom P-40, the Ghost P-40, or simply the Ghost Fighter. It was December 1942, a year and a day after the Japanese sneak attack that launched the United States into World War II. The American Navy was on guard at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Published accounts say that radar contact was made with an incoming aircraft, and fearing another attack, fighter planes were scrambled to intercept it. Instead of an attacking Japanese bomber though, they encountered a Ghost Fighter, a pre-war American aircraft shot to pieces with its pilot apparently dead at the controls. It lost altitude and crashed into a field, but rescue crews found no trace of the pilot's body. It is said to be one of the strangest mysteries of the war, and has in fact been replicated in other areas during the Second World War, again with a P-40. Third on the list, we're going to be taking a look at bombs that didn't go off, and this is something that many people might be able to relate to. Between 1940 and 1945, the United States and British Air Forces dropped around 2.7 million tons of bombs on Europe, half of that amount on Germany. So much of Germany had been flattened, but despite that, as many as 10% of the bombs that were dropped never actually detonated, with thousands of unexploded ordnance sitting beneath the mass reconstruction process that commenced immediately after the war. There are often situations where thousands of people have been evacuated in order to defuse bombs from the Second World War that are yet to explode. In 2011, 45,000 people were evacuated when a drought revealed a 4,000-pound blockbuster bomb sitting on the bed of the Rhine. Similar issues have occurred in the UK. As you can see in the background, during some development near Wembley Stadium, a 50-kilogram bomb was discovered. Some bombs were simply duds. Others suffered damage to the fuse, whilst some had a time delay mechanism that might have been broken. Some of these bombs that have been built with time delay fuses or even booby traps designed to kill EOD operators are as or even more dangerous today than during the Second World War. It's a fairly scary thought. Next up, we have one of the most unbelievable and mysterious items on this list, the Bell, otherwise known as Project Cronus. The Bell is a purported top-secret Nazi scientific technological device, secret weapon, or Wunderwaffe. As a non-German speaker, that word does ring a bell, with Call of Duty basing a lot of the Nazi zombie wonder weapons on this mystery. Powered by hydroelectricity from a nearby dam, they built a stone circle and constructed the machine, marked with a swastika on the side. In the first 5 tests of this bell, all the scientists were killed by the mutagenic energy. Following the second test, 5 of the 7 scientists died from exposure. Rumour has it that the SS continued the experiments on British soil, launching covert missions to Scotland to use suitable Neolithic structures. Whatever the case, little more was achieved. It was used one last time to murder all the inmates who worked on it to keep it a secret, and then transported via U-boat to a secret Nazi base in Antarctica. Not something that I really believe was a secret weapon. Some think it was a time machine for Adolf Hitler. To be honest, it's probably one of those propaganda systems that were used many times during the war by the Nazis. That being said, the fact it did actually kill people would suggest that it was some sort of nuclear device, or maybe something that had an immediate impact on the surrounding area. I'm not too sure, but it certainly wouldn't be something that I'd want to go near. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at the double cross system. The double cross system was a World War II counter-espionage and deception operation of the British Security Service, also known as MI5. Nazi agents in Britain were captured and then used by the British to broadcast mainly disinformation to the Nazis. This system was used for both counter-espionage and deception, with the intention to confuse the Nazis in order to gain an advantage. Operation Fortitude is probably the one you've heard about, with the Allied nations employing a full-scale deception strategy during the build-up to the 1944 Normandy landings. The plan was to mislead the German High Command as to the location of the invasion, diverting the attention away from Normandy. Dummy landing craft, fake vehicles, and double agents all contributed to the big hoax. All in all, the operation was fairly successful, with the most significant impact coming from the use of fake wireless traffic and German double agents. When the Japanese ambassador, Hiroshi Oshima, asked Hitler for his thoughts on the Allied battle plan on June 1st, Hitler said, "I think that diversionary actions will take place in a number of different places," and this in turn assisted the Allies as the Germans had to keep most of their reserves bottled up waiting for an attack on Calais that never came. Eddie Zigzag Chapman, a professional criminal before the Second World War, was integral to this process. Eddie Chapman was captured by the Germans in the Channel Islands after fleeing the British police. He was used as a German spy, and after significant training was dropped back into Britain into a Cambridgeshire field in 1942. Instead of disappearing into the criminal underworld as his German handlers intended, he promptly turned himself into the police and MI5. He then became Agent Zigzag, one of the most important British double agents of the Second World War. Next we have an interesting one with a bit of humour behind it. After the Germans captured Paris, the lift cables of the Eiffel Tower were cut by the French. During the years of the war, the site remained closed to the public. However, German soldiers had to climb the entire tower in order to host swastikas and Nazi flags from the top of it. Although I've never climbed it myself, my guess is that it's quite an enduring experience. It also meant that Hitler never actually climbed the tower, prompting the statement that he conquered France, but not the Eiffel Tower. You all know who the Foo Fighters are. Well, they're actually one of my favourite bands, which is why I had to include this next fact. The term Foo Fighter was used by Allied aircraft pilots in World War II to describe various UFOs or mysterious aerial phenomena seen in the skies above both European and Pacific theatres of operations. There have been many conspiracy theories, with some believing the flashing lights seen in the sky were supernatural, others believing that they were secret Nazi weapons later destroyed. Realistically speaking, these lights could have been caused by a whole multitude of different things, and many explanations and theories have been created. The exact answer, though, has still not been found. And finally, the 8th fact on this list, we have the Nazi gold train. According to local legend, the armoured train left Breslau laden with gold and other treasures. It was driven into a secret system of tunnels under the Owl Mountains, which were then part of an unfinished Nazi project, and supposedly everything was buried underground, with the train holding up to 300 tons of gold, jewels, weapons and masterpieces. According to historians, it has never been proven that the train ever existed, although many have said that they found the train and the treasure inside. An interesting mystery. So hopefully you enjoyed this list of 8 disturbing, interesting and, to be honest, quite mysterious facts from the Second World War, some incredibly influential to the outcome, others maybe propaganda or simply made up. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.